researchers may have recreated Cleopatra's perfume thanks to a 2,000-year-old residue. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. A lot of people portray her as being very exotic, very beautiful. In fact, she was quite ugly. From the profiles that were left of her, she was of Macedonian descent, and she didn't look to me at all beautiful. But anyway, going to this, Cleopatra's perfume was so legendary that Mark Antony could supposedly smell the queen's fragrance from miles away before her ships even arrived on the shores of his kingdom. And this is in fact what the poor woman looked like. So, I'll let you be the judge of her beauty, or not. But she did have a very wonderful fragrance in her perfume, according to Mark Antony. After centuries worth of paintings and sculptures, we have a pretty good idea of what Cleopatra, the storied ruler of ancient Egypt, looked like, but now we may also know what she smelled like. Now we know that Cleopatra was not the only Cleopatra in Egypt. Cleopatra was also the name of Alexander the Great's sister. And Alexander the Great, we know, came from Macedonia, the area around Salonika of Greece. Cleopatra, this Cleopatra, the Mark Antony Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, lived around from 69 to 30 BC, and she reigned from 51 to 30 BC. She was the last ruler of Egypt before it was annexed as a province of Rome. Although arguably the most famous Egyptian queen, Cleopatra was actually Greek and a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, which was there from 323 to 30 BC, which ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great, who lived between 356 to 323 BC. Cleopatra is probably best known for her love affair with Roman general and statesman Mark Antony, as well as her earlier affair with Julius Caesar, but was a powerful queen before her interaction with either, and a much stronger monarch than any of the latter Ptolemaic dynasty. Well, we know she wanted to have an alliance with Rome because of the terrible state of the Egyptian economy and social life and everything that was going on, but that failed anyway. Anyway, getting back to her perfume. So centuries after the paintings and sculptures, we have a good idea of what the story of the ruler of ancient Egypt looked like. Now we know perhaps what she also smelled like. After years of excavations and study, a group of researchers believe they've solved this mystery and actually recreated Cleopatra's perfume, uncovering an ancient perfume factory. As Atlas Obscura wrote, Robert Littman and Jay Silverstein of University of Hawaii at Manoa have been investigating the perfumes of the ancient worlds for years, focusing in particular on what scent Cleopatra herself might have worn. Their journey began with the discoveries at the Tel Timai excavation project at the site of the ancient Egyptian city of Thmuis, which was founded around 4,500 BC. That's 6,500 years ago. The city was home to production facilities for two of the most well-known perfumes in the ancient world, the Mendesian and the Metopian. Excavation at the site revealed that large compounds with kilns dating from the 3rd century BC used imported clay as well as glass to produce perfume bottles during both the pre-Roman period as well as the Roman occupation period. Some of these containers, called amphorae, a tall ancient Greek or Roman jar with two handles and a narrow neck, showed residue of a 2,000-plus-year-old ingredients once used to make perfume at the site. And these ancient scents they've now found include what may have been the legendary Cleopatra's perfume. Recreating Cleopatra's perfume after such a long time, the amphora are no longer retained in, they no longer retain the smell of the liquid residue inside them. However, researchers did a chemical analysis of the residue, which revealed a few key ingredients in the liquid mix. Taking the ingredients found in the ancient residue and folding in information found in ancient Greek texts on the subject, the researchers were able to recreate the formulas for perfumes of the era. And given the age and discovery location of the residue, researchers infer, but are not sure, that this could be Cleopatra's perfume. The ancient perfume formulas that the researchers cooked up used a base of myrrh resin, originating from the tree native to the Horn of Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, along with several other ingredients that you might very well have in your kitchen cupboard today, like olive oil, cinnamon, and cardamom. The result was a formula that was a lot thicker and stickier than the more watery perfumes of today. Still, the ancient perfume reportedly gave off a nice musky, spicy scent that would last longer than most modern perfumes would. Lippmann described the scent as the Chanel No. 5 of ancient Egypt. Quote, "What a thrill it is to smell a perfume that no one has smelled for 2,000 years, and one which Cleopatra might have worn," unquote, Lippmann stated in a press release from the university. The continuous search for Cleopatra's perfume, while researchers were successful in recreating the scents of ancient Egypt, the question still remains whether or not this was actually Cleopatra's perfume. For one, as royalty, it would make sense for her to concoct her own signature scents rather than wear what the public would be wearing. And according to perfumer Mandy Aftel, who was involved in another research project to reproduce the perfume used on an adolescent mummy, it's believed that Cleopatra did actually have her own perfume-making facility. Legend has it that Cleopatra would pour so much of her personalized perfume on the sails of her boat that Mark Antony could smell her coming from miles away even before she arrived at the shores of Tarsus. Shakespeare even wrote about Cleopatra's famously scented sails, which he described as, quote, "so perfumed that the winds were lovesick with them," end quote. But is the newly recreated formula actually Cleopatra's perfume? Researchers aren't sure, and may never be sure, of course. Nevertheless, this extraordinary new creation is now on display as part of the upcoming Queens of Egypt exhibit at the National Geographic Museum in Washington, D.C. In this article, researchers may have recreated Cleopatra's perfume thanks to 000yo Residue. It was originally created for all that interesting and is published here under Creative Commons on Collective Spark. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Clepoatra, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.